I would say that we definitely stand at on a fairly fragile footing. There's a number of forces at play, some positive, some negative. If I look at what has happened so far this year, Q1, also I would say to some extent April, there's been a decent amount of weakness. Macroeconomic landscape is really fairly weak, but I think there's a disconnect between what the macroeconomic landscape looks like and what prices are doing. So yes, absolutely inflection point. Question now, are we sort of looking at some sort of, call it mini cycle or mid-cycle scare or pause? And then see some sort of recovery from here as we go into year end, or do we potentially go into somewhat of a structurally weaker, if you will, environment? Our view is that from here on, we do expect to see the market to move higher. Fed obviously is a big risk, in our opinion, that could potentially harness in general sentiment, investor sentiment, business sentiment, and that could potentially, derail sentiment and more broadly, create some sort of, if you will, market correction.
I still think it's all about Europe. The question is, once that's resolved, and let's assume it's resolved positively, that they get some kind of deal done, then what does the market do? Then we have these cross currents. We have the Federal Reserve next week. If you're a trader, you do what I did today, and you take a lot of your leverage off and just let the market come to you. There's no reason to chase this market one way or the other until it binds conviction.
But if you wanted to make a trade ahead of the Fed meeting, Guy, what would that be?
I think you actually stayed long the banks. Goldman Sachs has traded extraordinarily well since their earnings. I think Blackstone had a little bit of a sell-off. I think that stock is still fine. U.S. Bancorp has been one of these names that we talk about forever. Slow and steady wins the race. So I do think some financials work. We can talk about healthcare. I think you have some great opportunities in that space. T-Mobile, I think something's going on there. So there is a long list of things to be long right here.
So, and looking at volatility and looking at ways to play some of the defensiveness that at least Brian's trying to be next week. EUO, I think you want to be short the euro. I think you want to be probably short the FXA, so the commodity currencies. This is all, most people on the side that the dollar is going higher. I think it's going higher. It's not going to rip higher. Talked about, though, I do want to own Germany, especially if the euro starts selling off. Those are places to play.